Good evening. Once upon a time, there was a little mouse. His name was Erik, and he lived in a big cage in the room of Mrs. Key. Mrs. Key was a hard worker. She earned a lot of money, and so Erik had a pretty nice life there. He had lots of toys and good tasty food. But he was also a very bored little mouse. Until one day Erik woke up to see something strange. He could see out to the street from his cage. There was people decorating their houses with fancy lights and other nice things. He saw people making delicious foods and wrapping gifts into beautiful papers and singing happy songs.
What's going on? That looks so fun! I want to be part of it!
Erik said and jumped up and down in his cage. They are decorating for holidays. They are wishing Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and so on. Many people give gifts to each other. Good children may have more gifts than bad, Mrs. Key explained. But before she had a chance to continue, Erik was already yelling,
"I've been a very good boy all of time this year. I should have a lot of gifts."
"Well, I don't know," Mrs. Key said, but Erik was getting anxious.
I want to have what they have."
Then he looked into her eyes so sweetly that she finally gave up. "Okay, maybe we could try it. In my childhood, I always got many presents. Why should I deny it all from you? After all, you've been so bored lately." On the Christmas Eve, Mrs. Key brought Erik a ton of gifts. He got a new bubble bath, 22 colorful balls, a huge mirror, a toy car, a bunch of cool computer games, a deluxe version of the most popular mouse playground, and all kinds of good food. There was so much of it all that Erik's cage had a pretty tight atmosphere after he had opened his presents. "Are you happy, Erik?" Mrs. Key asked. But Erik didn't hear her. He was busy with his new things. He played and ate like it would have been the final day of their life. In the next morning, Erik woke up with a taste of rotten apples and smelly fishes on his tongue. He had bruises everywhere because his cage was way too small for him and his new toys. Mrs. Key came to see him. "Good morning, Erik. How are you today? Happy, I hope?" Little Erik replied. "I surely had fun yesterday, but now I wish it wouldn't ever have happened. I feel so ill." "Oh," Mrs. Key said, "that's what happened to me too many times. And that's why I don't want to celebrate. You just get sick of it."
"Oh, then it's best not to celebrate. It's a pity though. People down there look so happy, and there was something really nice in the air. But now it's
A knock on the door cut Erik's morning. "Who is it?" Mrs. Key asked.
"Mr. McCullough,"
said the voice behind the door. Mrs. Key ran to open the door.
Ho, ho, ho,
started Mr. MacIver, but stopped there when he saw little Eric's face.
What's the matter? Don't you two celebrate this fantastic time of the year?
Mr. MacIver asked. Little Eric and Mrs. Key told him what had happened. And Mr. MacIver scratched his chin and sat down.
Look, I think you both shouldn't quit so easily. Holidays can actually make you feel good. When I was a little child, Christmas was the best time in my family. We were poor, but every time some kind-minded person gave us little something that we too could have at least one better day. One Christmas it was the new blankets, and another an old violin. My father fixed it for me, and look where it brought me, out of the streets.
Little Eric looked down.
The spirit of Christmas. It's made of nice, small surprises and good thoughts. That makes sense,
Eric realized. A big smile landed on Eric's tiny face. He poked gently Mrs. Key's arm.
I have some cousins on the countryside. Their families are big and they're often sort of this and that. Since I have so much of everything, could I give something of it to them?
Of course you can. I don't mind. In fact, it sounds great, Mrs. Key answered. Quickly after that they had packed most of the toys which Eric really didn't need and jumped into Mr. MacIver's car. They drove to the countryside and had the best holidays ever with little Eric's cousins. Happy holidays.